Hopefully her Wi-Fi let her be great, as my man Crack says. Hey, what?
Hey,
Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you.
All right, all right. You can see me. We good?
Yep, yep.
All right, I appreciate you hopping on. I was telling some of the people as you were coming, I said she's probably doing something fantastic. She's probably putting something together, messing with that van.
I was in traffic. There was an accident, so I don't know if that counts. But
Oh, okay,
uh,
okay. Well, hopefully everything is all good. Well, thank you for jumping on. And before I do all of that, because I'm excited. I've been wanting to talk to you for a while. But before I jump into all of that stuff like that, everybody here, appreciate y'all coming on for Wind Down Wednesday. This is being brought to you by the fine people over at Plastic Magazine. We say plastic because we are fancy and all of that stuff. They work really hard to try to bring arrested visuals around music, culture, lifestyles, and all that stuff. So we really appreciate everybody that contributes to Plastic Magazine and letting me hang out with Julia this fine evening. Now, let me get to the guest of honor. Now I've been super excited to talk with you and have this conversation because I've watched a lot of your journey up close, and it's been amazing to watch. It's been fun to watch. Like, you have inspired my pen, and you've provided me with global images that will never be erased from my mind, first of all. Um, to be honest, your camera lens has really been a vehicle that has transported myself as well as other people to various stages and events, throughout our culture. And it's truly an honor to be able to give you these flowers that you so well deserve for being a great historian and correspondent.
well, thank you. That's a great intro.
All right, cool. Well, let's get it going here. Now, you looked at as this big Renaissance woman. We see you doing all this cool stuff online. You've got various levels of interest. A journalist, celebrity, cultural photographer, runner. I've run into you there. Bike rider. What titles do you give yourself at this stage of your life? You're doing so much.
I mean, even like when I first started working, I never wanted a title on my business card because I feel like it kind of limits you. So I never wanted to be identified as one thing or the other. And so when I actually started doing Ozone, it kind of fit because I ended up doing so many different, filling so many different roles, just by virtue of being a small business owner and not having large staff. I learned how to do a lot of things myself. So I don't know what the title is. I mean, I guess overall, more than anything, just photojournalism as a sort of all-encompassing term, with my focus being, hip hop, but also, like you said, I've gotten into more just traveling and just seeing the world. But it was interesting because hip hop was the introduction to that. Even just being able to tour with different artists because the music has touched people worldwide. When I started, I was like 18, just started going to clubs with a camera. I would have never thought that would have eventually led me to being, in South Korea and in the Philippines and Australia and all these places that I ended up getting to go, through hip hop. So to me, that's what it became ultimately was, not only being able to travel the world, but traveling like with your friends. And that's what it is for a lot of artists too. I feel like is, once they achieve that success, they're able to turn around and bring people with them. Maybe their friends that they grew up with or people from the neighborhood that would have never had the opportunity to see those places. So um, I don't know what else to label myself. I try not to just get pigeonholed into one thing. It's just whatever I'm into at the moment. Like you said, I'm working on a van build, a camper van build, which I know is like super left field, but it's something I was always interested in. And with the whole quarantine, pandemic, was like, okay, I can't get on a plane and just hop, to
Right, right.
what else can I do that can keep it interesting and still be able to travel and still be safe. So yeah, that's the project at the moment. But it's always about creativity and learning new things and trying to build something. So
And see, I was going to ask you about, is the official name, was it Carmen Van Diego? Is that the
yeah,
official name? Did I get that right?
me and Carmen are gonna hit the road once I get it. Once I get her fully. Because there's a lot of places I've traveled, especially like on the West Coast, where if you go to Death Valley or there's all kinds of cool places in Arizona, Utah, but it's not like people envision in big cities where you can just go down the street to a hotel. A lot of times it's 3 or 4 hours of driving just to get to somewhere decent to stay. So This is kind of the opposite, where you bring your home with you, or your home on the road, and trying to make it have as many comforts as possible, having, running water, and, well, I don't know if it's technically running water, but, having a water tank, being able to shower and eat normally, and, cook your dinner and all that.
And
So
see, I
yeah.
was gonna ask you about that. I didn't know about the van. I was just like, okay, is she, putting together, something that, where she can lease it out or rent it out, or if you were gonna use it for some of your traveling and your adventures. So you kind of answered that question. I wasn't sure if that's what it was for, but it's okay. That's actually makes it even
Well, that's
cooler.
what I was gonna originally. I was gonna rent a van and go. I was gonna go up to Canada and Alaska this summer, but with the border being shut down, that kind of, messed up my plans. And then the more I started looking into it and thinking about it, was like, why would I spend all this money to rent one when I could, build one to my own specs? And, that's kind of how it came about. But
That's the most Julia thing ever, right there. Like, you know what? I'm just gonna build it myself, and you know what? I'm gonna make it happen.
well,
And
I
I'm gonna
have some
toss
help.
it out.
I'm not a. I've talked about it on my story, where, just in general, I think it's great to like jump into projects and learn aspects of it yourself. But there's definitely a time when it's time to call a professional and say, hey, this is important. I want this done right. So, when the time is there for things that I don't want to do myself or don't feel comfortable doing myself, then I'll definitely have some help with it. But
All right, good. Now, to get into the background a little bit, obviously, from what I've seen and heard, you seem to consider yourself kind of a photographer first in terms of what I've seen. What kind of drew you to the writing and the media enough to be able to start a magazine, especially giving all the light to the Southern artists that you've given light to?
well, if you look at like the very first couple issues of Ozone, and people used to say this like it was just a photo magazine. So it really was just me going to clubs and events, taking pictures and putting it in print. And initially I was thinking that, I used to look through like Vibe and The Source and Double XL, and I used to see their photo galleries, and I was like, that looks like a pretty cool job. Like, how do you get a job, doing that? So initially that was my first kind of goal with it, was that I thought some big magazine was going to see my photos and hire me. And that ultimately I did end up, doing a lot of work for other publications as well. But by the time I was kind of on their radar, I was seeing that Ozone really had potential to be even bigger than I had ever thought. So I decided to just stick with it. But yeah, in the beginning, it was always a love of photography for me. And when I think it was probably one of the first issues I got into it with somebody. There was like a promoter that was like a Yankee promoter or something, and I wrote an editorial about it. And I think that showed me how like we got so much response to the article by me just writing down what was on my mind, or what was going on. And so I think that it was like a little bit of a light bulb, like, oh, I really need to put more content in here. Like, the pictures are dope, but putting in interviews and editorials, even we never did like huge long, well, I don't want to say never, but the focus was never like, long, wordy articles or whatever. It was pretty much just straight interviews, Q&A, and photo galleries, which I think Rick Ross said that was the Instagram before Instagram, which I think was pretty accurate. We were kind of highlighting people that were doing things in the community, whether they were artists, a DJ, promoter, giving people their flowers, or however you call it. So
I got you. Now,
dark all of a sudden.
I was gonna say, yeah, I see you over there figuring it out.
I don't do these. Yeah, you talk me into it. I don't do these
I know, and I
Zoom
love you
calls and
for
all
it.
that.
I love you so much for it, and I appreciate you so much for it, because I know it's something you don't do very often. So I'm just going to try to take advantage of it and capture this beautiful moment in time. Now, as a true kind of writer and journalist, you've seen the transition, from print media to everything that we see on the web today. What are your thoughts on how this has impacted the culture and such? Like you just talked about, Ross mentioning that, Ozone was looked at as kind of the IG before IG in print form. What are your thoughts on the transition in terms of the culture?
Well, I mean, media is always changing, and it seems like it's sped up, of course, in the last decade or two, where you've kind of gone from print being the primary form of media to, then you went through these phases where you had blogs, and now it's all just social media. And I mean, there's pros and cons. Definitely it's hard to kind of escape, like with all the craziness going on in 2020, you know, the social media being our primary way to get news. It's like, it's overwhelming because it's like 24/7 you're just hearing about, you know, COVID and, you know, all the other crazy things that are going on. It's like, it's inescapable because it's right there in your hand. It's immediate.
Right.
So, you know, but, and then the negative side of it, I feel like is the attention span. Because even for me, I used to love to read books. I mean, still do, but I find it very hard now to like sit down and just read a long piece. You know, it has to be very engaging to kind of stick with it, because we're so used to just being able to read an article and kind of skipping to the next one, skipping to the next one. You know, so shorter attention spans is, but it's interesting to see how it's growing and changing, and just technology in general. If you look at, you know, how photography has changed, even just during the time I've been shooting, it's interesting to see it developing over time.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, especially your media and your images have always just been just amazing, even to this day. And even on that particular vein, you know, I still see you at most shows and events that I see in the city and out in the city. And I always say to myself, you know, do you just get a phone call whenever somebody's in town and they just be like, if they come on tour, they be like, hey, hit up Julia. Because there is no place I have been. I've been at a conference, Julia comes around the corner. I've been at a show, Julia comes around the corner. It does not matter. You're always on the scene. So but how does this work? Like, is it in the is it in the writer? I have to have Julia come out and do pictures.
No, I mean, well, you're talking pre-pandemic, of course. I'm not going
Right,
anywhere.
right, right, right. Absolutely, absolutely.
But well, I've always stayed shooting because I still like, if you watch Hip Hop Evolution on Netflix, or if you watch some of the unsung episodes, or if you watch I don't know if they still do Behind the Music, but they did like Behind the Label on BET. I still license a lot of photos, so like a lot of those older, not older, but you know, the kind of vintage documentaries and stuff are kind of like a, you know, a popular thing now. So I have to, somebody just asked me yesterday about some images for a documentary they're working on. So it really does take you kind of back down memory lane to just go through my old archives of stuff. And, you know, as a photographer, it's like when you're in the moment, you're not really thinking like this is historic. But then when you look back, you know, 5 years or 10 years, 15 years later, it's like, that moment can't be repeated. You know, it's a moment in time. So if you have photos or video of something that, you know, was a important time, just that era was an important time in music. So, you know, there's a value to that. So that's why I still shoot, because when I look back and see stuff I shot, you know, in 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005, I'm like, wow, I'm glad that I was capturing that. You know,
And we are happy as
I wish I
well.
had more, honestly. So, you know, someday, 2020 will be historic. I mean, it is already, but you know, someday 2020 will really be historic. So, you know, even to go out and like when they do the parking lot concerts in Atlanta, you know, I'm very COVID scared. I tell people like, I'm not going anywhere. I don't want to be near you. But when they do the outdoor concerts, I'm like, oh, I got a drone, so I'll go fly
And
drone.
those drone, if you have not seen the drone
You never know.
images,
They might need drone footage of Rick Ross during coronavirus someday. Who knows? I
oh, they
got
will.
it.
They will. And those images, if you've not had a chance to see the parking lot series in terms of the drone images that Julia put out there, take a look at it. They are breathtaking. You get a chance to see the artist and just pretty much in this big panoramic perspective. It is beautiful. It is a sight to see. And on that vein, as a photographer, now, of course, I see you at all the events and you get really, really great shots as well. So as a photographer, and I'm sure there's plenty of artists, plenty of people who are children of the lens on this particular chat. In your philosophy, how do you capture the best images as a photographer?
I mean, it's definitely some. It starts with just, you have to be born with it and have that eye. I don't know if it's something that, I mean, you could definitely develop it, but you know, there has to be like a love for it there. And I think just I don't know if there's a real answer to that. You know, I think just it's something that you have to keep up with like all the time. So even with like with what's going on now, it's like I'm not out shooting. I've found that when I've taken kind of a break from it, or if I'm not in front of a camera for a little while, and when I get back out to the show and the club, like because people think it's just point and click. It's not like your camera where you just pushing or your phone where you're just pushing a button. Like it's almost like playing a video game, or something where you have to be very responsive in the moment. Like you're adjusting all your different settings at once, especially when you're doing a concert or if you're doing sports, everything's happening very fast. And if you miss that one moment, you're just kicking yourself. So it's something that you have to constantly stay practicing in order to be at your best, for sure.
All right. Hey, fair enough there.
I see
Definitely take
D-Ray
that.
in the comments too. D-Ray is a West Coast shooter.
Hey, respect
Giant.
the shooter, baby. Respect the shooter. Definitely respect all of the shooters in the comments right about now. All right, let's switch gears a little bit then. Your first book, Sweet Jones, of course, Pimp C's True Life Story. Now, did you plan for that to be your first body of work, or did you have some other things that you were considering, and this one just, more so took precedence because of your relationship?
I think it was just something that came about organically. I mean, really, I would consider Ozone to be probably my first body of work. But
Fair enough.
when Pimp passed, I felt like he didn't really get the same level of recognition that he deserved. That Biggie and Tupac were just sort of immortalized in history, and he was regarded kind of on that level in definitely in the South. But I felt like he hadn't really been kind of honored in the same ways that they had. So it was just an idea I had, and when I went and talked to his mom, that was really what solidified it for me, because it was funny because I took her out to dinner, and I was planning on giving her this whole pitch and kind of introducing myself, because he had told me about her, but we had never actually met. And kind of as soon as I opened my mouth and told her the idea, she was just like, okay, let's do it. And then she started telling me stories that, she was actually his manager, which I don't think I even knew that, in the beginning. But she was telling me stories about UGK and about his life. And so she would be telling me something that happened 20 or 30 years earlier, just in extreme detail. And, this is what he had on, and this is what he said. And as a writer, I mean, that's a great source to have. So I was pretty much my mind was already made up after I met with her. I was like, I've got to, have to do this. So, but it made sense with the relationship that we had. He always told me that I was, I think he would say, you're the only journalist I talk to.
Perfect. Yeah, I see what you see. You getting your light and everything too. Yeah, that looks
I'm
good.
trying to get a writer. I don't know what's going on with the lights, but yeah.
You're working through it. Let's look good. Okay. No, and that's good in terms of that. And on that same area there, we were talking about the pitch, and I know obviously you'd also, contributed, and worked with Mr. Prince as well. How is it, pitching or talking with people who are so polarizing within Houston hip hop and just the culture in general? I mean, these are just, very polarizing figures.
Well, I mean, I've known, of course, the Rap A Lot camp for a long time. Since doing Ozone, we spent a lot of time out there and already had a good working relationship with them. So, yeah, I mean, despite the stories, and I know there's some people might be a little scared to go meet with the J Prince, but he, I've always had good dealings with him on the business end. So he he had called me. I think we had talked about it before, because he mentioned in some interview that he was working on a book, and I had mentioned it to him at the time, like, hey, if you need any help, let me know. And so I think it was a couple years later that he reached out, and he had actually done a rough draft of his book with Jasmine Waters, who passed recently. So R.I.P.
Rest
to
in
her.
peace.
So I kind of came in and edited and sort of developed the project into a book that we could actually release. And we had really good timing with the promotion of that. Kind of coincided with everything that happened with when the whole Drake and and Pusha T thing was going on. It wasn't really related to the book necessarily, but it did end up giving us a lot of good momentum for doing interviews and promoting the book. So I think it was a 30-day. We were supposed to do a 30-day promo tour. It turned into like 60 days. So that was a crazy experience. Had a lot of fun working with him, and definitely appreciate him you know, giving me the opportunity to get involved with it. I think he has a great story. And, you know, even when I first read the draft, I was like, wow, I mean, you really, you
Yeah,
have an
he's an
incredible
amazing guy
story. So
in terms of how he
we
moves.
gotta tell it properly.
Yeah, you're freezing up a little bit over there. Can you hear me okay? All right, here we go. There we go. There we go. We got her back.
Am I supposed to have a ring light? I'm not used to being on the camera. I should have thought about this.
My ring light is less than a month old, believe me.
Should have set up the proper lighting and camera and all that stuff.
It's all good. We are just happy to have you here. We're just going to keep giving you these flowers regardless. But the good news is that you coming out, you fixed your lights, so you're good to go. It all works. All right. Now, we talked a little bit about this a moment ago in terms of the pandemic and you having to kind of make some adjustments in the midst of what's going on. What's some of the things you've learned about yourself during this pandemic? We've all had some moments of introspection. What's been some of your things that have come about as a result of the pandemic for you?
Well, I had a long like list of travels planned for the year, so I think it took me a minute to kind of shift gears and say, am I still?
You froze up a little bit there. Yeah, I hear you, but your visual's frozen there.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Your motion again. You're good. Uh-oh. The Wi-Fi is not letting you be great.
I'm on Versus and I have a bad.
You got the Teddy Riley connection, girl. There we go.
Are you there? Are we back
Okay.
on?
Okay, hold on. I think we're good. We hear you. You good? Can you hear me okay?
Okay. Well, what? Sorry. What was it? Oh yeah, the pandemic.
Yeah, we're talking about the pandemic.
Um, well, it's crazy because I had a list of like 12. I listed like my 12 top places I have to go, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna knock this out 2020. So I went to Cape Town for New Year's, and that was at the top of my list. I did a bunch of dope hikes. Saw the New Year's parade, which was crazy. Then I went to Patagonia, and that's kind of when things were starting to get a little crazy. But I didn't know how crazy or how fast it was going to get crazy. So I was like up in the mountains in Argentina and Chile, and I mean you'd be out of service range for like, you know, half of a day or something, and every time I got back service it would be like, okay, you know, all flights from Europe are canceled, everything is closing, like
Crazy.
Argentina border closing. So for me, it was just kind of like I said, just shifting gears from being like on a mountain in Argentina to like all of a sudden like you need to get home or you're gonna be stuck there for like indefinitely. So I had to rush back, got one of the last flights coming back, and there were a lot of people there that were like legitimately stuck, like they couldn't. People who were transferring through the U.S. to go to Canada or Mexico or Australia or whatever, and they weren't even able to come into the U.S. because of the restrictions that were coming about. So anyway, long story short, I got home and was just like, okay, now I have to shift gears into just being in the house. So I think for a lot of artists, I mean, I'm just speculating based on how I am.
Yeah.
At first, it was kind of almost like a blessing to be handed like an uninterrupted block of time to kind of try to create something.
Right.
But then, you know, when it kind of stretches into like weeks and months, it's hard to keep that like, because in my head I'm like, oh, this is great. I can finish another book, like I can, you know, create something. But then it's also very hard to kind of keep that creative. When you can't go out to clubs, there's no music, you're not interacting with other people. Like there's no external energy really to draw from. It's only internal. So when you get in not being interrupted and the world is kind of like stopped for a minute, you know, you do have that energy flowing. Keep,
That
you know,
same
stay in that
energy
zone.
going.
Yeah, so I feel like the time has just kind of, you know, flown by. Like I did get some things done, but I don't think I reached the level of like, you know, creative productivity that I would have envisioned I could have reached with the lockdown. But you know, now the world is kind of back starting to turn again. And so as far as what I learned about myself, I mean, I don't know. I need some, I am very introverted, so I can kind of draw from internal, you know, energy to kind of create something. But I need the social aspect too. Like I need some of that, you know, because I joke about it, like, oh, I'm glad I don't have to see anybody, I don't have to go anywhere. But you know, you need some of that. You need balance
Yeah,
in
yeah.
order.
It's good to get that diversity of energy that's there
There's definitely
physically.
some people I've been dodging, like, oh, I can't, no, I can't see you because of COVID. You
Say for
know,
some relationships, distance is good, but for other people,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, yeah, I don't mind seeing you. No, I feel you. So in that, you know, your IG stories, and we all live for them, know this, are always filled with great places where you're biking and hiking. Now, how do you get a chance to go on these amazing adventures? And can people potentially join you? You putting together groups? Like how is this happening?
Well, it's funny you asked that because I was going to start this year. I was going to launch my, and I kept having some delays with my website.
You kind of bouncing in and out a little bit. Uh-oh.
If it's
Uh-oh. We trying to work through it.
free, when I look cute, at least.
You look great.
My,
The supermodel is definitely happening. You're good.
my tour company, I guess we're back on. My tour company is
We are.
called Robin. I was
Okay,
gonna
hold on.
launch it
What was it? You
here.
broke up there. What was the name of it again? I want people to hear it.
My tour company is called Road Trippin'. I think the Instagram page is up. There isn't a whole lot on there yet, but yeah, I was gonna start this year, start doing group tours, just small groups, like 8 people, just multi-sport, meaning, okay, we're gonna go hiking, we might do some mountain biking, we might bike, just different kind of trips for, you know, anywhere from like 3-day weekend trips to, you know, 2 weeks. All places that I've been, and I don't want to just kind of Google something and put an itinerary together. It's actually places I've been, experienced, and so really personally curated by me. Like, okay, I went to the city, I did this hike, this was awesome. We need to do this. We need to eat at this restaurant. This hotel was great. You know, that kind of thing. Turned out like I thought it would. I'm gonna delay the launch, you know, of those trips, but probably 2021 or 22. You know, there will be an opportunity to go on some trips with me and travel the world, really cool places. So when I get everything, announcing that on my Instagram, of course, and website and all that.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. Yeah, that might happen at some point in time. I might have to see if I can talk the wife into that one.
You're gonna come do some outdoor adventures.
I totally would do that. I would totally do that. I would totally do that. I would.
All right, we'll have to see you on one of the first trips then.
I'm gonna see if I can talk the wife into it. I'm gonna see if we can make it happen. All right. So talking about photography, and this is a big one. In my opinion, in the opinion of many others, you took the picture that really captured the energy on the scene. You know, in the passing of Nipsey Hussle. Can you describe what the energy was on the ground as you were going around, basically documenting that unfortunate moment?
Um, um, I'm laughing at D-Ray's comment, not at Nipsey.
Oh,
Well, and speaking
you're
of
probably
D-Ray,
right, D-Ray. I probably am not ready.
D-Ray was with me. At you know, I didn't know if I should use services because you know there was a lot of frozen again.
Yeah, you
What's
froze
going
up
on?
your face is frozen up a little bit there. Okay, you're back in action. Nipsey.
Yeah, Nipsey. You know, I didn't have like a whole, I didn't have like a super close personal relationship with Nipsey, but of course, you know, the business dealings I had with him, he was like super intelligent, really respectful guy. So I enjoyed working with him like the limited amount of times that I did. And I ended up flying out there just at the last minute for the services when I got a text at like 1 a.m. like, yeah, you have a ticket, because it was kind of crazy. You know, you don't want to be harassing people about like tickets to somebody's
Right.
funeral, right?
Right.
So I got a text at like 1 a.m. saying, yeah, you're good, you know, come on. And I think I was on a flight at like, I don't know, 7 a.m. or something. So it was all super last minute. Went to the service. It was crazy. D-Ray was with me. People were just, there was like fights trying to get in the building. I mean, I think I had to like snatch my memorial book like out of somebody's hand, like somebody tried to grab it from me. It was kind of crazy, you know, at the service. And so we went over by the marathon store where the processional was going to come through, and seen anything like that. I mean, just the first of all, like just the love from the city, you know, the amount of people that were there to just show, you know, show love to him. And so it was overwhelming in that respect. And then it was also, it was a little scary at times, because there was a couple stampedes where like somebody would pop a balloon and everybody thought it was a gunshot and started running. There was initially, they had kind of like a media area for the television cameras and stuff, and so that's where we were. And as time went by, it ended up just getting sort of overrun with people. Yeah, it was a Wild West. It was you know, and then also, oh, you know, being a white person there with the camera, I wasn't super welcome. I mean, it wasn't terrible that first day. You know, there was a little incident the following day when we went back over there, but it was a lot of energy. You know, it was a lot of it was love, but then it was also like, you know, there was just people who were people like she said something about all these cameras. I was like, well, you're in the media area, and she was like, you know, well, fuck that, like this is my city, and you know, this is where I live. And so I was like, well, I mean, she kind of does have a point, you know, like this is her hood, you know.
Yeah.
Come in here and put, you know, media trucks up and barricades, and you know, we can't claim that, you know,
Right.
it's your live here. So I understood like people people who lived there definitely had very strong you know, emotions about everything that was going on. It was a lot of tension, but it also, I would say, at least on that day when there was a processional, it wasn't as much tension between the police and the crowds as I would have expected. Like everything you've always seen from LAPD and, you know, the riots that happened in the past, like the police, I was actually surprised by, at least the ones that I saw, they seemed to be like handling the crowd in a very positive way. I mean, they kind of had to, because they're completely like outnumbered, but you know, it wasn't like the same kind of energy that I've seen in other settings where the police are like very antagonistic. You know, I felt like they were in that setting. I felt like they were being pretty respectful of the situation, that it was a you know, a funeral for a man who was respected, and they kind of were handling it as such. So that on that respect, like that was good to see. You know,
Right on.
but
Right on in terms of that.
yeah, I've talked about that. I've talked a little bit about that photo that I captured. Me and D-Ray had got separated, and I think my phone was off, like for my battery was about to die or something like that. So she thought something terrible had happened to me, because she couldn't call me. But I had ended up when the crowds got so packed, you know, there I tried to climb up on a fence, like everything. There were people up on top of the donut shop. There were people up on top of the street lights, on top of the like anywhere that you could climb up and get a vision of the processional coming through. Like there was nowhere to go, and I'm short, you know, so people are like, I mean, I'm relatively short, like people are crowding around me, and there's like just when we first got there, we're like in a great position, and then it's like 2-3 hours pass, and you just have the whole street is just jam packed with people, and I'm trying to get. I had the shot in mind, like I wanted to get, you know, just the processional coming past the marathon store, and as it actually started getting closer, I'm like, I can't see anything. Like, I'm not going to be, even if I hold my camera up, like, I'm not going to be able to get that shot, you know? So I was kind of frustrated. So I kind of just, I was getting claustrophobic, just people everywhere. I backed out of the crowd. And I'm here, you know, I really wanted to get like a great, you know, a great capture. And I feel like I've like failed as a photographer, you know. So I'm just kind of walking down Shaw that we were on. Well, we were at Crenshaw and Slauson, but I started walking down the street, and I was just trying to find something I could like get up on and get an angle down. And that's when I saw the police car. Like somebody had spray painted, you know, on the police car, and there was people standing all on top of it to get a good view of the, you know, the hearse coming through, and or the processional or whatever you would refer to it as. But I saw the spray painted, you know, car in memory of Nipsey, and not only that, but it being, you know, an LAPD car. I was like, wow, that's a great shot. And I saw it in my head like in black and white. I was like, this has to be like a black and white shot, you know, just with the police car, and it felt like a kind of like a civil rights era kind of moment. And I waited a long time because there was everybody walking by would see it and stop and take a picture with it. So, you know, if you ever been to like a tourist attraction where like everybody's trying to take a picture of it, it takes a while to get like a clear shot of just that by itself. So I was standing there for quite a while. Like I think I missed like the whole, when the processional passed, I didn't even really see it because I was taking, you know, shots of this car with everybody standing on it. But I posted that up with like a few other shots, and it got such a huge response, like just from people would see it and be like, wow. So like, and like Diddy commented like, hey, I need a print of that.
I saw that.
You know, so
I
it
saw that.
really became, I actually got him a print when he came to Atlanta. I actually printed up a print for him and was able to give it to him and everything. So yeah, that was like a classic capture. And so it made me feel like I still have my little photography. I still got my little swag. I was still able to, you know, kind of grab a great shot, even though I didn't get the one I thought I was going to get. But yeah, that was a great moment, and definitely R.I.P. Nipsey, and you know, just kind of continuing his, you know, his legacy of, I think the reason why people connected with him so much, because it wasn't only the music, it was, you know, the fact that he was all about ownership and just, you know, coming back to where he was from, and you know, rather than just letting the hood kind of deteriorate, he really wanted to like buy those buildings, fix them up, you know, build businesses in them, like that kind of mentality. That's what I really respected about him, and I think a lot of other people. So.
Rest in peace to Nipsey, and that photo is iconic.
Yes, I am writing another.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit there. You said yes, please do. You said you're going to write another book. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was a great moment. Well, somebody asked in the comments. I do plan on. I have been working on a book on quarantine. I haven't, kind of like I said earlier, like I didn't get creatively. I didn't get in this like amazing, just knock out this creative, you know, zone that I wanted to get in, because I kept feeling like I was kind of stuck, you know, just not being able to really go anywhere, just being in a little bit of a rut. But I did get some work done on my book. I'm gonna put out another book, maybe more. Who knows? You know, I got to get in the right creative zone. But yeah, it might come one day.
Okay. And we kind of wrapping this up here, and I know you've been over there just holding it together for us and giving us all this great energy as you always do, and I appreciate you for this, because I know you don't do this very often. So y'all know that this is a fine chapter that we're doing right here. Let's treasure this moment. What are some of your favorite destinations, and some others you like to explore? Like some, like, name your top, say, 3 destinations that you love. And why?
I love Alaska.
You said Alaska?
Alaska and Utah, Arizona. Wild West. And say Singapore was another great spot.
Okay.
I could keep going. There's many.
I know you probably could. Now, I do want to ask one question.
Patagonia was awesome. My trip got cut short because of COVID, but I will be back there too.
Okay. And
just the landscape and everything it was amazing.
And someone had just asked a question in the comments that I did want to ask you too. I didn't plan to, but I thought it was a cool question. And I'm sure you get asked it all the time, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Am I bringing back?
Are you bringing back Ozone at any point in time?
I mean, it's not like in the immediate plans. I mean, but I wouldn't, you know, I would never like rule it out completely. But if it came back, I mean, it's not the same. It's not the same, you know, industry. I feel like it served its purpose in its time, you know, we really gave the artists a voice, like when they really didn't have one, and the South as a whole. And I mean, now the South is not like, we're not as overlooked and you know, underrepresented, and artists are definitely not underrepresented anymore. You know, artists have so many outlets now to promote themselves. And you know, like when we started, like if an artist had a hot song, nobody really even knew what they looked like, because they didn't there wasn't like, YouTube wasn't popular like that. You know, they didn't have DSLRs to be filming their own videos. Like they didn't have outlets, they didn't have Twitter, they didn't have Instagram. You know, now it's like, I almost feel like the artists like do too much now. Like we see their whole, like everything about them. There's no mystery left anymore, you know?
Yeah, the mystique is
So
definitely
I
gone.
kind
Yeah.
of I like the artists that kind of can keep a little mystique. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. I'm with you.
So,
You're
so
right.
I don't know about bringing Ozone back. I just, you know, it wouldn't be the same as it was. Like it was exactly how it was supposed to be in that moment in time. So we'll still ask about it and still love it. So, you know, maybe I'll do some kind of.
And you've given us some of your precious time, and we appreciate it here. Just rounding third, what's some of the biggest things you've kind of learned that you could pass on to other creatives who are looking to gain a foothold in the entertainment industry? Internet or not, everybody's still trying to, you know, find a way in order to make revenue or to contribute in some way, shape, or form throughout the culture, the industry. What would be, you know, some things that you learned that you could pass on to creatives and maybe finding their foothold in that?
Um, Man, it's still out there, you know, like even some of the things that I would have done back starting Ozone, you know, like I don't know if it would work now, but there are some universal, you know, there are some universal facts that I guess would work in any setting. But you definitely have to be adaptable. You know, the way that things are changing so quickly, you got to be able to move fast, and you got to work. You know, just work your ass off. You got to be willing to outwork people, and that's one thing I was definitely like motivated to just, you know, I will outwork you. Like I'll work harder than you. You know, but and also kind of having your niche. Um, for me it was, you know, okay, we're going to represent the South, Southern rap, like that's what we're about, you know. I see a lot of people that try to do media outlets where they kind of just try to cater to everybody, and that tends to not work, because you want to narrow in on your audience, and like be very specific about who your audience is. So I would say that. And yeah, just try to think, be forward thinking, try to adapt, don't do what other people are doing, but think about, you know, what's going to happen in the future. Like look at the direction things are heading. um, you know, things are changing so fast. Who knows what might be the next form of media that's going to catch on, you know.
No, you're absolutely
So,
right.
like, you know, great pearls of wisdom, I don't think. Just
No, you have
keep
dropped
it.
all kinds of jewelry on the table, and we're just gonna pick those up, and we'll let those be pretty much the words there in terms of that. And that's what I had. So you know, I appreciate you jumping on. I appreciate you working through the Wi-Fi and everything over there with us in terms of that. You are a beautiful, wonderful, amazing, creative, and I look forward to many more years of your creativity and your adventures. I support you to death. If you want here, before we wrap up, we can maybe take a few more questions and then kind of, you know, let you go about your evening and join us. So let me see. Let me see if a couple in the chat here. Okay, here's a cool one. Somebody asked, "What's your favorite moment you shared with Pimp C?"
Oh, that's a good question.
I agree.
And I remember riding around in a, it might have been a Rolls Royce or Maybach or something with him in Milwaukee, I think it was. Like we were going to a show or something, but he was playing something he had just produced, or you know, it was like a rough mix, which he would do that a lot. Like he would, if I was in Houston, he would, you know, drive me in his Bentley, and he'd be like, you know, listen to this track I just did. So I got like a lot of kind of advanced previews of his music, and I wish I could remember what song it was that he was playing in Milwaukee, but it was something, you know, he was playing something really dope, and somebody else was driving, so we were in the back seat. And he put his arm around me, like not like in a, not like he was pushing up on me or anything, but just
Right.
kind of like in a friendly, he kind of just laid back in a friendly way and put his arm up. And I was like, this is kind of dope. Like, we're just kind of like rolling around the city, listening to some good music, like, you know, good vibes or whatever. So I guess that's the first one that pops in my head. But it was always good. You know, I always had fun hanging out with him. He was quite a character.
There you go. All right. Well, look, I'm going to go ahead on, and I think we can go ahead and stop it here. I appreciate you. Like I said, I look forward to more things with you. Everybody, definitely make sure you follow Plastique. Make sure you follow Julia Beverly if you have not. Amazing stories for an amazing life for a powerful creative. Thank you
Yeah, I
so
appreciate
much.
you having me.
Appreciate you. Enjoy your evening and all of that. Peace and love.
All right, bye.
Take care.